Given from the Met Office, northerly winds are now arriving, bringing colder weather, but also, actually, over the next few days, plenty of crisp winter sunshine, frosty nights, some ice patches, and in a few spots, some snow. Mostly at the moment, that snow is going to be across northern Scotland. That's where the strongest of the winds are, and that's where the coldest of the air is. So heading into the evening, some clear spells developing across western parts of the UK as well as the south. A lot of cloud floating about, but we do get the clear spells. Temperatures will fall widely at a touch of frost and temperatures a few degrees below freezing, and it's going to be feeling cold everywhere as we begin Wednesday. But it's across northern Scotland where we're going to see the greatest risk of snow, some disruption due to that snow through Wednesday, with it building up at lower levels 2 to 5 centimetres, 5 to 10 centimetres, if not more, over the hills. There'll also be some showers running down the east coast of England and affecting Northern Ireland. These are mostly rain with some hill snow mixed in. Elsewhere across the UK, maybe chilly, but it's bright blue skies, crisp winter sunshine and temperatures at around 5 or 6 in the south, 3 or 4 further north. Although over higher parts of Scotland with that snow setting in, it's going to be very cold, and through Thursday, early hours, temperatures in some spots dipping into the minus double digits. But a widespread frost nevertheless across the UK, around some western coast where we keep showers going, as well as the east coast, some icy patches to start off Thursday. And in sheltered spots, temperatures getting down to minus 6, minus 7 Celsius, if not lower. Then as we begin Thursday, there are some areas of rain, sleet and snow around, one pushing into parts of North Wales, into northern England and the North Midlands, could bring some settling snow for a time. And the snow showers continue for the north of Scotland as well. In between, plenty of sunshine, but staying cold into the weekend.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by 2 of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB+ radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. Tonight on Farage with me, Lawrence Fox, I'm in a bit of a conundrum. Usually I have a pretty solid view on fairly much everything, but tonight I am going to need your help to decide whether I sympathise with those striking or whether I don't. We'll discuss it with a Tory voice, a Labour voice and a striking voice. I was also out and about today talking to firefighters who looked set to strike, and seeing as none of the unions will come on and talk to me, I went to them. I was lucky enough to meet 2 former firefighters, no, current firefighters, who saved mine and my family's life back in the day as well. Also, Tonight, I will speak to the world-famous Hollywood actor and legend, Tom Conti. You know, the dude off Shirley Valentine, Reuben, and even Friends. All that coming up after the news with Ray Addison.
Thanks, Lawrence. Here's the latest from the GB Newsroom. Downing Street has declined to reveal if the Prime Minister is worried about patients dying due to NHS strikes. It's after GMB, Unison and Unite announced that thousands of ambulance workers and other NHS staff will walk out across England and Wales on the 21st and the 28th of December. They say the government is ignoring workers' pleas for a decent pay rise. However, the Health Secretary says unions' demands are not affordable. One Kassab is National Lead Officer at Unite. He says patients' lives are already at risk.
Only 25% of shifts have the planned staff actually on that shift. There are 133,000 vacancies across the NHS in England alone. And what our members are telling us is that lives are being put at risk now and that people are dying now because of the state of the service.
Baroness Mone is to take a leave of absence from the House of Lords following allegations that she benefited from a COVID PPE deal. It's alleged that Michelle Mone and her children received millions of pounds after she recommended a company to ministers at the height of the pandemic. Baroness Mone has denied the allegations. Stephen Flynn has been elected as the SNP's leader in Westminster. The Aberdeen South MP replaces Ian Blackford with immediate effect. First Minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon, has congratulated Mr Flynn after his win. He'll appear at PMQs questioning Rishi Sunak for the first time tomorrow. The Health Secretary has told the House of Commons we're seeing an earlier peak in Strep A cases than usual, but there is no new strain. At least 9 children have died from the bacterial infection in the UK since September. The latest is a 5-year-old from Belfast. The government says antibiotics could be given to children at schools affected by Strep A as a preventative measure. 7 more cases of diphtheria have been recorded among migrants in England, taking the total for the year to 57. The UK Health Security Agency says they were discovered between November 28th and December the 4th. It marks an increase from the previous week, where only 5 new cases were diagnosed. Last week, the Immigration Minister told MPs that asylum seekers with diphtheria symptoms would be put into isolation. And a man has been arrested on suspicion of common assault during a walkabout by King Charles in Luton. Bedfordshire police say the suspect, aged in his 20s, was arrested after an egg was thrown in the direction of the monarch. King Charles was seen being guided away from the crowds by his security team following the incident. On TV, online and on DAB+ radio, this is the People's Channel, GB News. Back now to Lawrence.
There's no doubt that there is something distasteful about I told you so's. But as our country is heading into a de facto national strike, it is worth pointing out that had there been a reasonable balance and open debate allowed by the COVID cultists during the last 2 years of the most insane failed public health experiment in history, we might not be facing a supply chain chaos, soaring inflation and a cost of lockdown crisis, which has played no small part in driving so many unions to make this year another dreadful, life-sapping, depressing Christmas of discontent, when really we should all just be having one of the best years in forever. The then Chancellor, who has now been promoted from within the ranks of the Politburo following a coup to replace Chairman Truss, Chairman Sunak, oversaw in glee the creation of £1 billion of monopoly money a day throughout the pandemic, diluting the value of our currency to the potency of a weak Ribena. I mean, I'm no economist, but even my squirrel brain could fathom that when you dump all that extra money into the economy, prices are going to go up. And up they continue to go. And the more they go up, the wider our eyes become when we look at every bill we get for the necessities of our everyday lives. People are being forced to choose between heating and eating. No wonder everyone wants to go on strike. But it is strange. Some strikers I have real compassion for and some I really don't. For example, firefighters. I really do feel for firefighters. You'll see why shortly. But anyone who was born with the mindset of when I want to grow up, I want to be a firefighter, and then actually does grow up and become a firefighter, who puts their own life at risk to save others, by very personality type, must find the thought of downing hoses and not fulfilling their life calling an act of absolute last resort. When they were offered such a pitiful pay rise, whilst the PPE graduates on the blue side of the house and the critical race theorists on the red side of the house took the above inflation pay rise they were offered. Yes, I know, some of them said they would donate the excess to charity, but it's hardly leading by example, is it? Right, medics, too. I know they didn't do themselves many favours during the pandemic with the TikTok videos, but every time I or anyone else I know and love has needed critical care, the overwhelming majority of the time they have got it in spades and been extremely grateful to the doctors and nurses and porters and surgeons they have to direct contact with. The list is too long to mention. So I'd be happy to give both firefighters and frontline medical staff a pay rise. That's just me. Especially seeing as a trainee firefighter will soon get less than someone who works in Aldi. Let that sink in. But having said that, there is obviously some money washing around at the bottom of the fire service's diversity, equity and inclusion bucket, because some genius turned all the remaining fire engines into non-binary rainbow unicorns with wheels. I also think that pretty much any NHS worker who doesn't have direct contact with patients in hospitals should have to explain what their job is and then reapply for it. I bet you there's a few billions in salaries for non-jobs which could be trimmed off that big fat bill. But now to the rail strikers. They really get my goat. This is the first Christmas since the madness of the last 2 years began, when restaurants and retailers could actually make some money in that crucial period running up to Christmas. That is as long as their customers don't mind not being able to get the train home again after their Christmas party or shopping trip. Those strikes, for people who sit in a chair and turn a knob all day, I'm slightly less enthusiastic about. It's mean, miserly and misanthropic. But then there is the other side. You start giving everyone in the public sector, 1 in 5 of us, a pay rise at the same point, the other 4/5 are going to get a bit miffed, especially seeing as they create all the wealth in the first place, and most of them haven't had a pay rise either. There is also the potential wage price spiral to deal with if all of this extra money starts floating around, compounding the problem still further. What an absolute mess these last 2 years have been, and we're living it out now. Okay, so right, what do? How about we scrap the 50 billion we are spending each year to appease the sun monster with offerings of net zero and give some of those woke billions to those who work on the front line? As I say, it's a mess. There is indeed something distasteful about I told you so's, but we did tell you so. So, I'm asking you, how long will you support the strikers? Email me, Farage, well, I'm not Farage, but email Farage at GB News UK, or use hashtag Farage on GB News. Well, as I alluded to, more than 33,000 firefighters and control staff have started voting on whether to strike over pay, following their rejection of a 5% pay offer today. Fire Brigade unions members from all over travelled to Westminster to lobby MPs to mark the start of a ballot for strikes. I went along to Westminster to speak to some of the members demonstrating earlier today.
These guys, these two gentlemen here, put out a fire in my house at midnight when I used to live in West Sussex. So I would have slept through that, and I would be ashes on the ground, so thank you. That's, I think, probably why I'm feeling sympathetic. Well done, chaps.
I mean, don't be under any illusion, we're not into striking at all, but we've got no other option. And that's where it kind of lands with us.
We never want to go on strike. It's your worst nightmare. That's your community, and we, like you say, we want to serve them. It's a last resort, and that's what we've been brought to, is a last resort.
Realistically, we're £4,000 below inflation over the past 10 years. And then it's at 11% now, and we got offered 2% by the government. The employers then came back and said a 5% offer, but that was unfunded from the government. We have to find that out of our own pockets from the employers.
A local supermarket will pay £11, Aldi will pay £11 11 an hour for starters. The fire service pays £11 5 pence an hour.
Is that That's the truth.
That's the truth. £11.11 in Aldi, £11.05 in Aldi. Sorry, in the fire service. So
that's insane. What would your message be to the public tonight?
I think they just need to know that they're getting screwed over as much as we are. They're literally getting screwed over more than we are because they're not getting the service they believe that they're going to get. It's not there. So if they're then going to say that they're going to pay us out of a budget that's already on its knees, then they're going to get a worse service than ever. So they need to support us if they want the service we provide, which I'm pretty sure 100% of them do. When that time comes and they want it, they want us there. So they've got to support us.
Joining me from Westminster is Greg Smith, Conservative MP for Buckingham. Greg, what is the government going to do about this?
Evening, Lawrence. Look, everybody wants a pay rise, right? Everybody wants an inflationary pay rise. Everybody wants to have more money in their back pocket. And I have enormous sympathy for the firefighters. Actually, that example that was just given of the comparison between firefighter pay and pay in Aldi clearly isn't right, and there has got to be something done in the medium to long term to rectify that balance. But this money has to come from somewhere. And, you know, as you said in your introductory remarks, we are still suffering the aftershocks of the COVID pandemic, the supply chain challenges, the economic disruption that the lockdowns brought. You know, I voted against many of the lockdowns. I supported the government in the first one, but started voting against as the pandemic went on. You know, I felt that they were too damaging to our economy, to our children's health, to all the other factors we've rehearsed before. But there is a reality that the aftershocks of the pandemic, the war in Ukraine, many other global factors mean we are short of money. And much as everybody wants these double-digit pay rises, there actually physically isn't the money out there to pay for them right now. And I agree with you that there is a massive campaign that we can wage a war on all the waste, we can root that out, but that isn't going to happen by the time Christmas comes round. And what we need to happen if we want a successful economy across the whole United Kingdom is we need all of our shops and all our cafes and pubs and restaurants and everyone that relies on December for actually the bulk of their turnover and their profits to be able to trade. And if the railways are on strike, that isn't going to happen.
We can't do that because our dear friends at the RMT are refusing to let us do that and travel around. What can the government do about this? These people should be stopped from striking. You can't cancel Christmas because you don't get enough money to turn your knob on the tube train.
Look, I totally agree with you, and I'm frustrated. I've been pushing the government to come forward with the minimum service legislation that we've promised. You know, we shut everyone's freedoms down in a day at the start of the pandemic, so I see no reason why we can't pass this emergency legislation to stop these strikes in time for Christmas. And at the end of the day, these guys have refused an 8%, let me say that again, an 8% pay rise. That is far more than the vast majority of workers in this country are being offered at the moment. It is obscene for them to still say no.
I worked in show business for 22 years and no one got a pay rise in the entire 22 years. Thank you so much, Greg Smith, Conservative MP for Buckingham. Here to give us the Labour perspective is Peter Edwards, former editor of The Labour List. Right, so it's one thing having train strikes is irritating and all of this stuff, but when we're onto ambulances and the fire service, talk me through the logic of that.
Well, first of all, no one wants to go on strike, and that applies whether you work in the media or in hospitality.
You can't say that. That's a false equivalence. You can't come out with a false equivalence. Nobody wants to go on strike. If you didn't want to go on strike, you wouldn't go on strike.
Bolden, you gave Greg Smith a couple of minutes. You've got to give me 10 seconds to answer.
You're going to get longer.
Yeah, OK. So no one wants to go on strike. And as you rightly said, people go into all sorts of industries, especially public services, because they care about helping other people. Then you use the analogy or the example of a train driver, I'll phrase it in a different way to you, twiddling the buttons in his cabin, as if that were somehow a trivial activity. But it's about safety, and it's about getting all the people in the other jobs, including the private sector, that you held up as a great example, to get to work so they can make money. So you need train drivers, not just for the public sector, but for everyone, and kids to get to school and everything else.
They're not driving the trains.
Well, they are, that's the point. And
no, they're ruining Christmas. They are the Scrooge of Christmas.
No, we've got to stick to facts, and you're obviously entitled to have a different view to me, but we've got to stick to facts. So last time there was a rail strike, there was about a 25% service. It wasn't a zero service. The strike we've got slated over Christmas would be from Christmas Eve, when there's an early shutdown, to Christmas Day, when there's no service, to Boxing Day, when it's generally in London, the tube only and not the overground.
What about the week before?
And then to the 27th. Well, I hope it doesn't go ahead. And actually, people might describe me as moderate, but what really struck me is both the firefighters in your clip didn't want to go on strike, but also the general secretaries of the RMT, the rail union, and of Unite, which is a generalist union, both said on the media today they didn't want a strike to happen. It could still be stopped. So these are not gung-ho militant people. They want to serve their customers, their patients, their passengers. But people go on strike, and I've done it in my life, because they feel desperate, or they feel poorer, or they feel they're not being listened to.
Fair enough. But we're still going to have our Christmas ruined by these people.
Well, I hope not, and trade will run.
So look,
what happens
I have
next?
just expressed solidarity, I think, with...
In a way. Well, in a different way to how I would, but...
Well, it's solidarity nonetheless. I didn't come on and slag everyone off, did I? I've expressed solidarity. What I can't put up with is the fact that we have been put through the most appalling misery for the last 2 years by this ridiculous government and their stupid COVID policies. And this year we had a chance to make everyone feel great again. And we also had a chance to give money back to people and give them hope and optimism and say, we're through this. And the RMT have just turned around and went, no, we're going to get you. And they've chosen the most damaging time for businesses and for small businesses, medium-sized, all businesses and parties and office parties and gatherings to do this. Why would you be so miserly, Scrooge-like and vile about it?
Well, I disagree completely, and I wouldn't use the word vile for two reasons. First of all, you and I have a different view on lockdown. I supported it, but...
You still support it?
Yes.
But now that they're striking because they can't afford to pay for it?
But that is no consolation for a train driver or firefighter who's got to pay a rent or pay mortgage or put food on the table for their...
No one can put food on their table.
Well, some people can, clearly.
No, you supported lockdown. We're now suffering the consequences of lockdown. No one can put food on their table, and you're still saying you support lockdown. How can you expect anyone to take you seriously?
Well, let me answer that. That's a good question. Why do I support it now, and why are we in a position... Because we all agree, although you and I have totally different views, there is an economic crisis across the country. But my view of that, there's lots of reasons for that. First of all...
Don't say Ukraine. Please don't say Ukraine.
It's the Tories that have said that.
OK.
It's the Tories.
No, I don't like them
Zahawi said that once and then got shamed out of it very quickly. One of the reasons, there's lots of reasons why we've got a cost of living crisis, like we become reliant on other countries for our grain or our energy, or the government took money away from...
Fracking, so you support fracking?
No, or we took money away from TfL in London, so train fares became more expensive. And, of course, the Conservative mayor that gave back the TfL subsidy was someone called Boris Johnson. But through depleting over 10 years British infrastructure, we become more reliant on other countries, and then something goes wrong in those countries and we're exposed.
We're on the same side. Pete Trebord, thank you so much. So we believe that the future is beneath our feet. We need to create our own energy and go for it.
We do need to create our own energy.
Make Britain great again. Right, joining me now to discuss the potential fire brigade strike action is trade unionist and writer Paul Embry. Paul, I'm just going to ask you the same question I asked Peter. Why are we not just talking about trains and posts anymore when emergency services strike? People are going to die, are they not?
Well, I hope not. But obviously, if we take strike action, there is an increased risk in that. That's undeniable. But what I would say, Lawrence, is never underestimate. And, you know, I was listening to some of your interviews there with firefighters at the rally. Never underestimate the wrestling that firefighters do with their consciences whenever they take a decision like this. I've been on strike before as a firefighter. I know what it's like. It's an agonising decision. You never enjoy it. You never do it as a first resort. You only do it as a last resort. And I genuinely think that, you know, this is a last resort for firefighters. This dispute about pay in the fire service has been rumbling on now for something like 7 months. And, you know, whatever side of the divide you fall in terms of whether or not you think firefighters are right or not, I'm sure everybody understands there comes a point where if you're at an impasse, you either capitulate as a group of workers and say, well, we'll just accept what you're throwing at us, or we're going to have to do something about it. And I think many firefighters are of that view now that we've been pushed into doing something about it.
What would you say, you know, with your experience, would be a fair pay offer? What would firefighters accept?
Well, I mean, I genuinely don't know what other firefighters would accept. No trade unionist, as you would appreciate, whilst negotiations are ongoing, would want to give away a bottom line anyway. But what I would say is, look, the 5% that's on the table, at a time when inflation is running at 11%, at a time when I've got colleagues saying to me for the first time in my 25 years in the service that they're struggling to pay their mortgage, they're struggling to pay their energy bills, they're worried whether they can afford Christmas presents for their children. The offer has got to be something that addresses the cost of living crisis, and at the moment the offer that's there simply doesn't do that. So, firefighters are really at the end of their tether. They feel that they've exhausted negotiations, and now they've got no other option but to put that cross on the ballot form.
I think I agree. I agree with you. I think firefighters should be held up as heroes in this country and should be seen and shown as much, especially to our children. Thank you, Paul Embry, firefighting trade unionist and writer. Up next, we shall discuss the ongoing royal racism row rumble. Funnily enough, I don't think there's more to it than meets the eye, but there probably is. Back soon.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
So, hello, welcome back. I'm asking you tonight, how long will you support the strikers? Dave says Mick Lynch and the other so-called union leaders are living on cloud cuckoo land if they think they have the power and support as their counterparts of the 70s. They're delusional. Thank you, Mick. Angie, these unions have far too much power and it's time to stop all public service workers striking and holding the country to ransom. There's got to be middle ground. Even I think it, and I'm an crazy person. One viewer said, there is only so long we can support them. Yes, they need more money, but we need to be able to live our lives. You see, that's where we need to have this debate. It needs to be right there in the middle. Robert says, not in the slightest, pure greed. I'm not with you. I wish I was. I want to be full like that, but I'm not. Another says, I'll support them for as long as the government continue to starve them of well-deserved money. No, I won't go that far. Governments don't starve people of well-deserved money. We pay taxes and the government distributes it badly. Anyway, don't forget to email Farage at GB News UK or use the hashtag Farage on GB News. OK. The charity worker, Ngozi Fellaini, Marlene Headley, has been invited back for a second time to Buckingham Palace by King Charles, less than a week after accusations of racism led to Lady Hussey immediately stepping down despite 6 decades of service to the country. And because she was white, it would appear she has Buckingham Palace in the palm of her hand. So I'm sure she will jump at the chance to head there again to lecture them on their language and corral them and fill them in on the thrilling and wholesome Meghan and Harry Netflix documentary. I'm going to watch that, by the way, in the same way as I can't stop myself watching Dr. Pimple Popper when I'm stressed. Right. Before I get to my next guest, take a look at this clip of Ngozi or Marlene or whichever fantasy world you live in, where she talks about looking a certain way in certain opportunistic situations.
If I go to an interview, if I go to represent someone in court, if I do this, if I do that, I have to look a particular way all the time. I'm from a particular community. Would you guess what community myself and Roseanne belong to? What do you see when you see me? Does anything stand out? But the hair has significance. Does anyone know what the significance of my hair? That's the period. Okay? And my colleague Roseanne also. So, would you understand the significance of these colours?
And trending today on Twitter is a video of a professor in the US. Take a listen to Brittany Cooper from Rutgers University, New Jersey, being fairly unsavoury, to say the least, about the white people.
I think that white people are committed to being villains in the aggregate, right? The thing I want to say to you is we got to take these out. But I know, but like, we can't say that, right? We can't say, like, I don't believe in a project of violence. I truly don't.
Right, it's Mark Dolan in for the brilliant Mark Stein.
With me. We want to discuss this. We want to take these beepy beepers out? I mean, come on. This is not cool. Anyway, look, I like Femi and I want to talk to him about this. So with me to discuss this is Femi Nylander. Hi, Femi. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. What do you make of that?
Of the first video or the second video?
Let's start with the second video.
I mean, I think when you look at what she said she's not committed to a project of violence later on in the clip. I think the first thing she was saying, I mean, I don't know the wider context of the video. I haven't watched the wider video, but she may well be talking about, in the same vein as someone like Malcolm X. Pardon? She didn't talk about obliterating them. She said taking them out. And I assume, well, I mean, as I said, I don't know the wider context of the video, but I assume she's talking about the use of violence. And if she's talking about this, and she says in the aggregate as well, when we talk about the aggregate, what we're talking about is we're talking about a group of people who do something to a group of other people. So we're talking about the idea that a large community or a community of individuals who belong to a certain group can enact violence on another community of people. I mean, if you look at the United States these days, it's very clear that which is where she's speaking from, that the dominant group is white Americans, and that mass incarceration of black Americans is still a problem. Shooting of black Americans by police officers is still a huge problem. So generally, I mean, her words are one thing, and saying something.
Femi, can we just stop there?
Mm-hmm.
Shooting of black Americans by white Americans is a major problem. Can you state me some stats there and some facts there? Because, you know...
I said by police.
By police, okay. So how many, you tell me, how many unarmed black men were shot by police or killed by police last year?
I don't have the statistics straight off the top of my head, but I can tell you definitely.
Bearing in mind, sorry,
if you look at it as a percentage of the population.
Man, I want to talk to you, but we've got to talk in facts, okay? We've got to talk in facts. You can't just randomly say white people are killing black people, therefore a black person can go on a podcast and turn around and say we need to wipe these mother bleepers out. All right, let's just stop there and we'll go back to the first video of Madam Cosplay, which is what I'm seeing this. I'm speaking, I identify as a white person, you see. This lady, I don't even know what to call her, Marlene Ngozi Headley Falana, I don't know what to call her. She is blatantly there preparing herself to set people up. She says it. What good is this doing for race relations in this country?
Which sentence in that video did she say she was preparing herself to set people up? She said if she goes somewhere, she needs to dress in a certain way. How is that preparing herself to set people up? Can you give me the quote from that video where she said, I am preparing myself
when I go to court, I have to dress in a certain way. When I go to this in a certain way. And what she's implying, that there will be more validation for her if she puts on a load of beads and tribal garb and invites the question, where are you from? Now, I know
if I go to court tomorrow, Lawrence, and I'm being judged for a crime and I turn up in my dressing gown, I'm more likely to be judged for that crime. If I go to school as a student tomorrow and I don't wear my tie, I get told off and told to do up my top button. If I go for a job interview and I have a stain on my shirt, then I'm more likely to not get the job. Of course, when you go somewhere, you have to dress a certain way. That isn't saying that I need to turn up somewhere and set people up. And I understand that some people are saying that she arrived there dressed in African garb and then refused to answer this question, that she was trying to set up Lady Hussey. But I don't buy that. I think she arrived there dressed in a certain way. Yes, but when someone asked her where she's from, if she wants to say Brixton, she can say Brixton. I can dress in a dashiki I can dress in a kilt if I want to, if I have Scottish heritage, which I don't. But that doesn't mean I have to tell someone that.
And nobody complains when you drive through Brixton and it goes BAME-owned business or black-owned business. But I tell you what, if they had it on the lamppost, white-owned business, people would have a problem with it. Now, listen, I really respect you and I think you're a smart guy. Would you come and talk to me on, longer form for Talking Pints at some point soon?
Yeah, I can come on. Come on and have a deeper conversation.
All right, Femi Nylander, who is actually sane and does provide a rational viewpoint, which I need to acknowledge. So thank you very much, activist and political commentator Femi Nylander. Right, coming up, I will have a rant on Harry and Meghan. Oh, Lord, I will. You won't want to miss it. And a little bit of inspiration from our dear friends, the Japanese.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions. I have no time for cultural totalitarianism. We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me! And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236,
and YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio,
with the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, and welcome back to some more royal lies. This time, it's the hypocrites-in-chief, Harry and Meghan. Yes, the ones who wanted to escape the limelight and the horrible press, but have released a Spotify podcast, appeared on James Corden's Not Very Funny Carpool Karaoke, and are now advertising a new Netflix documentary series, which I'm going to watch. I can't help it. Could you think of a more perfect way to obtain privacy? Well, the latest in this laughable couple's saga is that at least 4 of the clips in their 63-second promo are a load of absolute beep. Yeah, just 63 seconds, and it's full of inaccuracies. It's as if the scriptwriters are Guardian writers. In the advert, it's been reported they've used the footage of journalists waiting outside court for Katie Price last year to illustrate the media frenzy around the couple, given the impression a lone snapper covertly photographed Harry, Meghan and dear son Archie inside a private home when it was a pre-arranged coverage of a visit of Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Shown cameras round a limo before the trailer cuts to a tearful Meghan with a very, very expensive Hermes blanket behind her, I may add, when the passenger was in fact Donald Trump's ex-lawyer and claimed photographers at the Harry Potter film premiere were targeting them. It's so clear that Harry and Meghan aren't interested in the truth, just their truth. God, that's irritating me more and more every day. And the only time to tell when they're lying is when they're moving their lips. This Netflix documentary has been completely discredited, even before it started. Good job. Intelligent people like the good viewers of GB News know where to come for the truth. Now, one of my what the fox moments is an uplifting one from the beautiful game of football. Japan put on some heroic performances, most notably knocking out the Germans, giving the English another reason to cheer at this World Cup and sink another beer. But their efforts off the pitch, alongside their fans, has been equally admirable. Following their exit from the tournament, their team took the time to leave the changing area immaculately clean, whilst their fans spent time cleaning the stadium rather than drowning their sorrows like any Brit would. That really is giving something back to the people and showing respect and sportsmanship for the world to see. Slightly more so than the England team's empty gesture of kneeling for whatever they're kneeling for nowadays, whilst our opponents stand towering over them utterly bemused. So up next, I'm very excited about this, I will speak to Oscar nominee, Hollywood star, Tom Conti on Talking Pints. We'll be back very soon.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
The GB News bar is open, so that can only mean one thing. Yes, it's Talking Pints. Now, before I get chatting to my extremely famous friend and guest, take a look at him in action in the 1983 film Reuben.
Well, the party is for me. I'm the guest of honour. And Bobby did ask if there's someone I'd like to have come. I'd like to have you come.
Sounds tempting. I'll see. I'm not real sure about the date. Thanks again.
Miss Geneva, the incident on the train yesterday, your attitude, your behaviour, your generosity.
I really don't want to talk about it anymore.
No, but I want you to know that I forgive you.
It is. We are so blessed. The Hollywood star and Oscar nominee Tom Conti. Tom, cheers.
Cheers.
How are you, old love?
I've got water.
Why are you on the water?
I don't know, just in case I say something I shouldn't.
Well, we'll get on to things that you say that you shouldn't. But listen, the last time you and I saw each other, I was still allowed to act.
I know. And it's a great want that you're no longer allowed to act. What is it you're not allowed to act? How bizarre can a thing like that happen? I mean...
Agent ditched me. Apparently I'm a racist, white supremacist, fascist, transphobe, homophobe.
Well, I spent, 2 months with you every day, and I didn't suspect any of that.
No, you were the worst with the director. Do you remember? Anyway, for the viewers, Tom and I did a play, The Patriotic Traitor. It was the last time they let me anywhere near a stage. And we lived the good old days where people disagreed profoundly.
Yes.
Our director was a very hard left guy, really, at the end of the day, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yes. And you argued with him to the hilt, and so did I, and it was totally acceptable.
But it was discussion, it wasn't argument. It's
exactly.
rather different, isn't it?
I know, but we had the power because we were the actors, so we just refused to do it. What do you make of the current cultural climate? And then the climate after?
Well, it's religion, and climate is a religion. It's the new religion, isn't it? I mean, somebody was suggesting that since God has been sort of banished, which is no bad thing. I have no.
How dare you? I like God.
With that, but well, good luck with him. But it wasn't replaced by anything. Religion wasn't it? So people find their own religions, and the climate at the moment, whether it's a physical climate or the idea that you're talking about of the cancel climate, is another kind of religion. It's something for people to hang on to and believe in and fight for. Unfortunately, both of these things are not worth fighting for. Neither of it is worth fighting for, really.
What is the job of an artist?
As an artist?
Of an actor, any artist, but let's nail it down to actors. So what is the job of an actor? What should an actor do?
Make people feel good. It's the same as the job of a composer or a painter or anything. You do things which you hope people will like, and it'll make them feel good. It'll make them laugh for an evening, or if they go into the National Gallery, they see something that warms their heart, or they go to the festival hall and listen to Mozart and weep. There's all sorts of ways of entertaining people.
It's to move us, though. Fundamentally, it's to move us from where we are to somewhere else.
I think so.
Isn't it? It's spiritually, emotionally, artistically. And do you think the artist still exists at the moment? Are there artists out there?
Yes, I think they might be a little bit fearful. That's the problem. Like comics say, we have to be awfully careful what we say. Well, it's an absurd world you live in if you have to be careful what you say. We're not in Germany in 1938.
Not yet, love.
Or the Soviet Union, or whatever it's called now, another ghastly madman. You're not allowed to say anything. You get thrown in Siberia.
I know. Yeah, we have a cultural gulag, don't we, now, which is, we're sort of hemmed in. My description is we're being herded down narrower and narrower lanes of thought.
Yes. And generosity of spirit is rather important, I think, in any decent society. And we're slightly lacking generosity of spirit, perhaps.
What was your happiest moment, your most creative, most in creativity, I'm not asking about the legendary Tom Conti sex life. No, I'm saying, what was the moment when you were stood in front of a camera or on a stage where you felt most wonderful, most connected to the entity?
The best fun. I had two jobs which were tremendously good fun. One was a musical by Marvin Hamlish called "They're Playing Our Song," with the wonderful Gemma Craven, and we ran for a year or something like that. And to go to work every night was like going to a wonderful party where you have all the best jokes. It was just absolutely tremendous. And the other one was doing a Harold Pinter play called The Dumb Waiter as a movie with Bob Altman, and that was just, again, immense fun to do, mostly because of Bob, because he lets you get on with it.
He was amazing. He turned around to me. I worked with him. And he turned around to me and he went, do you want to change the lines in the film? And I went, what? No, it's a script. Actors need a script. He went, the script is less important than your shoes. And I just thought, I loved how these people were. I miss it. I'm mourning show business. Do you feel that way? How do you feel yourself about it, about the industry and about cancel culture and all of these things?
Well, I mean, cancel culture is absurd. And what is more absurd than the cancel culture is the fact that people buy into it instead of just ignoring it. I mean, for example, your agent, the morning after that program, apparently he said, I don't want to work with you anymore. What was he afraid of?
Well, it was actually, it was later because you know what agents are like. All of the assistants in the office are called something like Octavia or Juliana or something like that, and they're all the third daughters of extremely wealthy people, and they have brains similar in size to chickpeas, and they're all like, we feel that he is a racist, and we do not want to represent him. And I'm just like, what is your problem? So I got removed by the death of 1,000 cuts, which, but what I find interesting is that you and I, and Jonathan Lynn, who directed our play, who made Yesminster, and extremely left-wing dude, we would have profound disagreements with one another, and yet it would all be done in the name of what we were trying to create. Yeah. And now it seems that art has to be not done that way. And I saw this Jonah Hill trailer for a film he's done, and the trailer is literally a black couple going, you just came over here and did this to us. And you're expecting me to sit through 2 hours of race baiting. I'm just beyond. Anyway, let's get on to the really most important thing that we need to talk to Oscar-nominated actors about, climate change. Talk to me. Talk to me, Tom. Talk to me.
Well, you've heard of this dreadfully evil gas called CO2, carbon dioxide.
The plants love it, though, apparently.
Well, that's what nobody seems to understand, is that if you reduce CO2, then the plants stop growing. Well, they won't stop until 160 parts per minute, per million. And then plant death occurs. We're at 400 at the moment. There have been times in history where it's been far higher than this, and nobody died, nobody choked to death. To suggest that CO2 is solely responsible for any change in the climate. It used to be called global warming, but they had to change it because the globe isn't warming. No. Although people, and particularly children, are being terrified into believing that every day the temperature goes up 2 degrees. There's a hot day, and they think that is the same all over the planet. But in fact, the chances are that any warming, any change, not warming, but change, is caused really by the chaotic movement of the oceans and the atmosphere, and of course the sun.
And the sun monster.
And the sun monster.
He's got his own ideas.
Yeah, but the idea that, if you here's 0 parts per million, and here is 1 million parts, right, of the atmosphere. Put your finger where you think the amount of carbon dioxide is between there. That's 0, that's 1 million. A bit nearer. Yeah, about there.
All right. So we're not, as Boris Johnson says, 5 seconds to midnight, or whatever he said. Why? Listen, we're artists. What are you going to do to fight back?
There's nothing you can do. The strange thing is that the opposite side is not allowed to be heard. I talked to a man called Will Happer, professor of physics at Princeton, and I met him this year when I was playing Einstein in
perfect casting, darling.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in Chris Nolan's new picture, Oppenheimer.
They're screaming in my ear. They're screaming in my ear. We have to finish.
Oh,
Tom. Cheers, me. Cheers. I love you. Can we go for a beer after?
Don't believe the nonsense about CO2.
We don't.
It kills society.
I'm with Tom. Right, coming up, it's Mark Dolan in for Mark Stein. Mark, how are you doing?
Comedian Nina Conti, but neither of them are as talented as you are. Now, I'm very excited because we've got a busy show tonight. We're going to be crunching the numbers on COVID. Is the consensus around the virus now beginning to crumble? We're going to speak to Ivor Cummins, something of a YouTube star. He's an engineer who has actually looked at the data and argues that lockdowns, masks and vaccines have failed to move the dial. Also, is Britain in long-term decline? We will debate that with Professor Dr. David Starkey live in the studio. And Oxford goes full communist. Find out why in my big opinion monologue. We're going to get to that. Plus your emails, of course, gbnews@gbviews.uk. Lots to get through.
Hello again, I'm Aidan McGibbon from the Met Office. Northerly winds are now arriving, bringing colder weather, but also, actually, over the next few days, plenty of crisp winter sunshine, frosty nights, some ice patches, and in a few spots, some snow. Mostly at the moment, that snow is going to be across northern Scotland. That's where the strongest of the winds are, and that's where the coldest of the air is. So heading into the evening, some clear spells developing across western parts of the UK as well as the south. A lot of cloud floating about, but we do get the clear spells. Temperatures will fall widely at a touch of